Good afternoon. I hereby call to order the September 14th, 2021 regular meeting of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. Welcome, everyone. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This evening I have the honor of reading our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish, Snohomish, and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to the ancestors of this land, on whose shoulders we stand. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mason.
Present.
Vice President Lassane.
Present.
Director Berg.
Present.
Director Mitchell.
Present.
Director Nichols.
Present.
Student Representative Colley.
Present.
Student Representative Pilch-Basson.
Present.
Thank you. Our first item of business, as always, is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, may you please provide an overview of this evening's agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to our public this evening. Tonight's agenda contains the following: a segment for recognitions, the Superintendent's Report, a segment for board comments, a segment for public comments, a segment for routine business, a segment for information discussion, a segment for new business, and upcoming agenda items. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes was made to the agenda. Item 7.01, Superintendent's Report, the presentation was added. Item 10.02, approval of the personnel report. The personnel report was updated. Item 10.06, 10.07, 10.08, collective bargaining agreements were updated. Item 10.10, approval of minimum basic education requirement compliance report. The data and compliance report were added. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The agenda is adopted, which takes us to our favorite time of the evening, recognitions. And tonight we are honored to have Everett Public Schools Teacher of the Year and Northwest Educational Regional Services District 189 Teacher of the Year, Sarah Manus, in the room. And it looks like Dr. Chad Golden
Yes,
is going to provide an introduction.
I am. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to recognize our Teacher of the Year, Sarah Manus. After I recognize Miss Manus, Larry Francois from Northwest Educational Service District will say a few words as well. So as I recognize Miss Manus, this year she's teaching at Everett High School. However, last year, Miss Manus in her first year in Everett had the privilege of teaching English at Evergreen Middle School. During one of the most challenging years in the profession, Sarah's colleagues recognized her passion and focus on student learning. Sarah states, "One of my greatest strengths as a teacher is preparing students to succeed under difficult circumstances." Prior to Everett, Miss Manus taught English in Federal Way and at the Chrysalis School in Woodinville. And prior to teaching, Sarah was an education and development volunteer in Nepal. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in English, Creative Writing, and Sociology from Seattle Pacific University, and a Master's of Arts in Teaching from Seattle Pacific University. On behalf of Everett Public Schools, we'd like to present a plaque in honor of Teacher of the Year, Sarah Manus. Thank you.
Dr. Saltzman, President Mason, Board of Directors, student directors, thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight to recognize Sarah as our Northwest Educational Service District 189 Teacher of the Year. Just a few notes. This is my 5th year being involved in this award, and we had the highest number of applicants we've ever had. We had 15 applicants from across our region, and that Sarah would rise to the top in such an esteemed group of educators is just absolutely incredible. As I read about Sarah, I only met her for the first time here a few minutes ago. My overriding thought was, I wish that one of my 3 children would have had the opportunity to have a teacher like Sarah at some point in their career. And I hope that my 6-year-old first grade granddaughter does have the opportunity to have a teacher like Sarah at some point during her career. Rather than my words, I thought the words that would be most important to share with you are those of the folks who were involved in nominating and submitting letters of recommendation on Sarah's behalf. One of the things that stood out right away about Sarah's nomination is that it came from a parent, which is not typical. Typically, a nomination comes from a colleague or from an administrator. So right away, Sarah's application distinguished itself. The parent who submitted this nomination went on to say, "I just want to send you a quick note about what an amazing teacher Miss Manus is. My daughter is in her class, and I've had the opportunity to hear Miss Manus's engaging and thoughtful teaching over Zoom these past several months. She is a master teacher, which seems difficult to believe given the fact that she is so young, but her content, style, engagement, and dedication are all excellent. On a personal note, I am a critical care nurse practitioner working with COVID-19 ICU patients. To say that it has been an extremely rough this past year would be a gross understatement. When I am off shift and I can hear my child's teacher, it actually brought me a great deal of peace and encouragement, like there is some normalcy and hope left in this country. Also, I very much appreciate her focus on Black History Month, Black Lives Matter, and the importance of social justice and equality, all topics that are utmost importance to our biracial family. I would hope that she would be recognized for her true greatness as an educator, her passion for the truth, and her dedication to her students' education." Sarah's principal says of her, "She is an effective instructor who is student-focused. Sarah leads not only by example, but also through her advocacy and leadership of weekly professional development opportunities for her peers. Her social justice, culturally responsive equity focus has immensely impacted our equity work throughout the building. She instills in her students a love of learning. She embraces any challenge with tenacity and open mind and the grit necessary to get the job done. As an instructional leader beyond her years of experience, Sarah quickly found her leadership role within our school. Sarah continues to lead well-received training sessions for her peers. Her leadership is so evident within our equity work. She shares her social justice passion with our staff, students, and our parent team members. Sarah also seeks out and promotes professional development opportunities for herself, her team, and the school. She is an innovative leader who is helping our educators grow." A teacher colleague says of Sarah, "Sarah puts thought about equality at the forefront of curriculum and school culture. She's been the spark in meetings with our colleagues to help them talk to students about current events. Topics include how we talk about racism in our classroom, equity in grading, and how to communicate better with families. All have been transformational for staff. Her ability to bring people together, to speak out against injustices, and her resourcefulness are invaluable assets to our school community. She's the colleague I am most excited to work with and the best colleague I've ever had." A parent says of Sarah, "Ms. Manus has been a source of light and joy for our daughter. Ms. Manus uses a variety of ways to connect with her students and draw them into her lessons. She takes time to show she values them. She tackles curriculum along with current events with an openness that welcomes her students' voices into the conversation. The rapport Ms. Manus has with her students is amazing. It is clear that learning is the main objective. Her patience, enthusiasm, and encouragement are well received by her students and their families. She is a standout teacher. For the students lucky enough to be in her classes, she is surely the light they so desperately need this year." And finally, Miss Manus, the students say of her, she is the best teacher ever. She acts excited about everything. She cares for students and community. We never had a teacher like Miss Manus. She is truly one of a kind. Her energy is contagious. She would help, and add more help until we understood. She never gives up on us. We look forward to our English class every day because our opinions matter in her class. Miss Manus respects us, so we respect her. We leave class knowing we can do it. No one goes unnoticed. As events happen on the news, she always lets us think and talk about them, and everyone's opinion matters. We don't know how she does it, but she makes everything easier to understand. Miss Manus is real. You notice how much she loves her job and is really good at it. She wants her students in our country and world to be successful too. She wants change. Miss Manus makes me excited to wake up and go to school. She's the best teacher we've ever had. So Sarah, I just would say that on behalf of the Northwest Educational Service District, you are an outstanding representative of your profession, an outstanding representative of our region, and certainly of the Everett Public Schools. So congratulations.
Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone. I found myself getting choked up as I heard all of that read in sequentially like that. It's been a long time since I've looked at my application, but as was just mentioned, I've only been in Everett for a year, and I can truly say, I'm getting choked up again. It's my home. And I look forward to many more years serving this district and serving its students and seeing the ways that we are a source for change and leadership in issues like equity, anti-racist teaching, and all of the things that I know we're prioritizing this year and beyond, taking all of the lessons that we learned from the pandemic and using that to drive us forward, not hinder us into the background. So thank you again.
I think we're going to get a photo, but before, we do have a certificate, not a fancy plaque, but well meant here. I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of our district. I think we all wish we had this at some point. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to congratulate you for being named the 2021-22 Everett Public Schools Teacher of the Year. Thank you. And I think, do you want her to come here?
I'd like you to come here, and Dr. Saltzman and Larry, would you like to come up too? And then behind these guys, and that way I think we can get everybody in. Socially distanced.
Socially distanced. Can you still see us all?
Does that work, or do you
Larry
need
needs to
me?
go that way a little bit, and then if you guys can just filter in between, perfect. Wait, there we go.
Like we're just
Awesome.
adjacent to that. Can you see the girls?
I can. Okay, so smile with your eyes. Excellent, thank you.
I like your shoes.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Okay, I think one more round of applause just because it's so awesome. Thank you for being here this evening, Sarah. Okay, next item of business is our superintendent's report. Dr. Saltzman.
Hey, good evening, and Sarah, congratulations, and I just want to publicly say, Larry, thank you for being here because you're an amazing leader amongst all our superintendents, so thank you, Larry Francois. In my report this evening to our public and to our board, first of all, I'd like to publicly thank the Aqua Sox for letting us honor Robert Polk. We had Robert Polk night recently at Aqua Sox Stadium, and I'd like to publicly thank the Aqua Sox organization and Danny, who is the general manager. It was just a very special moment, so I want to thank everybody for that. We good over there? Thank you, team.
We're good.
Okay. Next thing I'd like to share is had a wonderful meeting with our bus drivers and food service staff, and I want our public to understand the first people the kids see in the morning are those bus drivers. And I want to thank the bus drivers for greeting our kids and getting our kids to school on time. and for our food service staff, who last year served many, many, many meals, and again this year we're serving meals to our students, and just an amazing job they do every day. So I want to thank them. What an amazing first day of school. That's all I'll have to say. I had chills. In 33 years of public education, I still haven't slept the night before, and I certainly didn't sleep the night before this year. Just to see the kids back in school, and everybody that I was talking about was so excited, and it was just a wonderful day. But went to 20 schools out of 26 so far, and I promise by the end of the week I will get to all of them. But just seeing the teachers up there, as you see students, and now you see those teachers. Okay, look how happy they are, and just staff members and teachers and everybody. It was just a joyous first few days. And yesterday, first day of kindergarten. How about that?
Oh my gosh.
First day of kindergarten, and that was very special. Got to see some wonderful youngsters, the class of 2034.
Oh my
I
God.
want everybody to think about that. The class of 2034. So that was very, very special. And then finally, two other things. A day that I will never forget, 9/11. And we wanted to thank our first responders. So went to the Firehouse 1 in Everett to thank our local first responders to their service. And they got a card from our entire staff signed to honor them. And we shared that card with them, and I can't say enough of the great service that our first responders have done, and it's very special to me. And then finally, as we continue the great communication that we all started together, our Let's Talk Assistant is now available on every web page. Okay, it's in the bottom right-hand corner, public, of our web page, and this is where anybody in our community can pose a question, which can be answered by chatbot chat. Chatbot chat, just remember that, it's an easy catchphrase, and he knows everything about the district. And if he can't answer your question, you could send him a question, and that topic will be rerouted to a staff member to get that question answered. And I want to publicly thank our school board, because we could not have purchased this or instituted this communication tool if it wasn't for our school board. So we continue with our transparency and customer service, and we hope that our public takes full use of this. So thank you so much. And that is my report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. I look forward to meeting Chet at some point. So this is a time for board and student representative comments, and I think I'm going to start and move this way to give our student representatives who are here for the first time an opportunity to think if they want to make a comment or not this evening. And mine's very brief, because I just want to echo Dr. Saltzman's comments about the first day of school. I was fortunate enough to get out to a couple schools and see some of the kids and be able to help them out, and it was an eye-opening and wonderful experience. Just so much excitement for them to be back, and the chatter of the social aspect was just really, so much needed after the year that we have all been through. So just a wonderful day, a great way to share in the energy in our district. And it was my first time for in-person instruction without a student in the school. So I was able to share with all the other families, which I just greatly appreciate, and one of the best parts of my job. So with that, I will turn it over to Director Lassang.
Well, I too attended some schools in our district. I had opportunity to go to Eisenhower as well as Monroe, and also sat in at Everett High School on the freshman assembly. And they are the class of 2025, I learned. So that was really, really exciting to be able to sit in and hear them, be giving a lot of information about high school, being a student in high school and what that entails. What a wonderful day for them. But I did get the opportunity also to talk with parents. And there were so many parents at both Eisenhower and Monroe who said the first thing they were happy about was having their kids in school. Their students were happy, they were excited. They wanted to hang out with their friends, so to speak, socially distanced, and engage in classes in the classroom instead of on Zoom. So they were very, very happy, and I was excited for them. So what a wonderful day. I look forward to the rest of the wonderful days we're going to have as school continues on.
All right, well, on top of all the other wonderful things that have happened this month, like the start of school and all the other different celebrations that we've had, I'd like to remind folks that September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And so one of the easiest things you can do in your own home to help prevent access to means that somebody might use, either yourself or somebody who's visiting your home, is lock your firearms, lock up your medications if you have young children in the house especially, and just check in with your people you care about. Just make sure they're doing okay. It's a rough time for all of us, and hopefully it's getting better, but we just got to take it one day at a time.
Thank you, Director Nichols, for that. I have a lot of thank yous, so you helped me start that out. I am very thankful for all the Twitter pictures that Dr. Saltzman and the schools posted, because I was out of town for that first day of school, and so very thankful for that. Thankful I was able to go to a high school football game to watch an amazing young man from Everett High help Everett beat Jackson, and really, really quick feat. I really impressed. I did get stuck behind a bus, but I am very thankful the buses are on the road again, and I will never complain about a bus ever again, because they're actually on the road again. I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Saltzman for bringing the Snohomish County vaccine program to Evergreen Middle School, and to Brian at Evergreen Middle School, that we were expecting about 30 vaccines on Saturday, and we performed 51. We actually ran out at one point, and luckily the county was able to bring more of second doses for some of our students, first doses for staff and community. And so a lot of community members very thankful that we were able to do that for them. And then personally, parent weekend at my daughter's school is the weekend after next. It will be the first time my husband will actually see my daughter's school, because he never went on a family trip, and because of COVID, he didn't get to move her in. And we'll get to see Lafayette play the University of Pennsylvania, and we're not quite sure who's favored, but it'll be fun times. So thank you.
Well, and thank you, Director Mitchell, for teeing that up with the Jackson-Everett football game. And it was a win-win, because we got points on the board, and if you know Jackson's team, you know that was a victory. So that said, it was a great and glorious time to have our kids back in school. I want to thank everyone, including my fellow board members, for being there the first day of school. As a parent on the board with kids physically in our schools, I was not there. Full confession. I had to visit family back in Chicago, so I was very thankful for all the parents that were there to welcome our kids in. My kids are at Jackson in 10th and 12th grade, and they had a fantastic time. I got pictures and text messages, lots of smiley emojis. Had to go through a couple of outfit changes until they were school appropriate. But we made it through that via text with a 2-hour time difference. But I just want to thank all of the staff, especially our tech staff. I know Brian Beckley's back there. Oh my word, I don't know how you guys did it, because there were so many computers being handed out and flying around, and tech problems that then weren't problems, and it was just amazing. And so I just want to thank you and your team. I think people don't know how much and how important it is, because a lot of folks thought with us going back in person that all of a sudden the technology wouldn't be needed. Well, no, it's needed now more than ever, and now we've got all of the kids in one place on books. So it was really, it was huge. And so thank you for making that go smoothly at Jackson and our other high school and middle schools. And then lastly, I just want to say, Andrew, Director Nichols brought it up, and thank you for bringing it up about Suicide Awareness Month and Prevention Month. And that's very near and dear to our family's hearts. Suicide's a part of our family's story and part of why we're sitting here in this district. But please remember that we do have 988, and one of the nice functions about 988 for suicide, if you need help and if you're having suicidal ideation, calling in, you can also chat. We have one of the few 988 numbers in the country that has a chat function, and that's really important for our young people. So just knowing that they can reach out in that alternative form as well as phone calls. And please check in with the folks that you know and love, even if you think folks are okay, no matter the age, no matter the situation, they may not be.
I just want to follow the similar line of thank yous and just like extreme gratitude to be back in school. I guess the first day for me went by really fast, as it sort of always does. It's like a whirlwind. And I just remember like leaving school in the miserable parking lot traffic that is back and better than ever. I was leaving school and I was like, I get to do all of that all over again tomorrow. Like this is just an everyday thing now. And that was a really special feeling because last year you would go to 3 classes a day and you would not return to that class. And this is even if you had chosen to be in person, which a lot of students didn't, you would not go back to that same class until a full week later and see those same students. And I was like, wow, I'm going to be back in this classroom tomorrow and the day after that, and then the next week. And that is something that I guess I never thought that you would even be able to take for granted. But as an extroverted person, it's really special to be back. I went to the Jackson versus Cascade game, but not the Jackson versus Everett game. We did lose both of them, but I think we got more points at the one that I was at against Cascade. More points on the board, like it was a little bit closer. So that was, and that was the first football game that I had been able to go to since my sophomore year. And I was like, wow, I get to be in the senior section up in the front this year. So just a lot of things that I'm really grateful for that I never even would have thought to be grateful for 2 years ago.
Well, coming back to school has been great, and it's really different than last year. I'm so glad we finally get to see all our teachers in person and all my classmates that I haven't met along from Zoom. So it's been really great to be back and to be back with cheer and football games. Love watching all the games and being a part of everything at school. So yeah, it's just been great, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year.
Thank you, everyone. I think there's certainly a general consensus that it's good to be back. So with that, Dr. Saltzman, do we have any public comments, either in person or online tonight?
I believe we do. We have a Zoom, correct? We have someone on the virtual online.
Okay.
And I believe it's Mr. Jeff Heckathorn on the Zoom at this time.
Jarrett, will you promote them to panelists, and they have 3 minutes to speak to the board?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Teachers Unions Contract. The district admin negotiating team members have had triple inflation compensation increases themselves over the last couple of years. In their regular jobs, the admin negotiating team members work closely with teachers. They have no incentive to push back on any teacher demands during contract discussions. Your claim in a newspaper with maintaining the highest paid teachers in the state is exasperating. Some questions you need to ask, please. 1, the salaries in year 3 of this contract have no upper bound. You are about to sign a blank check, whatever inflation is plus about 5%. How are you going to pay for that? 2, how is it equitable for Everett to demand the highest pay in the state when there are many other school districts with 80% or more low-income students, double Everett's? Also, many other districts have much higher percentages of underrepresented Indigenous, Black, and Latino students. Do they not matter? 3, are Everett area citizens the highest paid in the state to easily pay ever-increasing property taxes for these highest teacher salaries that will approach $180,000 in total compensation? 4, how are Everett area citizens also supposed to pay for remodeled or new school buildings when teachers and administrators take so much in local property taxes for their own paychecks? 5, how are you adhering to at least the intent of the McCleary decision? 6, shouldn't student achievement be part of any salary increases for teachers? 7, this contract should be taken off the consent agenda and discussed at length until you and the public understand what you are agreeing to and to incorporate taxpayers' input. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Heckathorn. Next item of business is our consent agenda. Dr. Saltzman, may you please provide an overview of this evening's consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Board of Directors. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes it includes items that occur less frequently but are of a routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or consider a discussion about policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received no questions regarding items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Would any director like to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in new business section of the agenda? Hearing no request, we will move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved. That takes us to item 11.0, strategic progress monitoring. And tonight we do not have any strategic progress monitoring items. So we will go ahead and move forward to 12.0, which is information and discussion. And our first item of business under information and discussion is the college in the high school program. And I believe Dr. Woods is going to give us a brief overview.
Can we take down the presenter light?
Well, you're out of time already,
Yeah.
Kathy.
Let's call it a wrap.
Darlene? Oh, sorry.
I just had to time
You
out.
got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everett? Okay.
Sorry, I have to share.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Mason, members of the Board of Directors, student directors, and Dr. Saltzman. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you the work we're doing with our partners in higher education to help our students not only graduate from high school, but graduate college and career ready, and with the opportunity to earn college credit prior to graduating. We recently signed interagency agreements that you approved, allowing us to offer Everett Community College and University of Washington courses in our high schools. We have signed these yearly agreements with both institutions each year since 2013. We have 35 different Everett Community College courses offered in our schools in subject areas such as world language, social studies, science, English, math, and education. And we have 8 different University of Washington courses in our schools in computer science, English, psychology, and astronomy. These are not just high school classes for which students can earn college credit, but they are college courses taught in our high schools by teachers whom the college has agreed meets the qualifications to be hired to teach the course. There is a cost to the students if they wish to earn the college credit. For the Everett Community College courses, the cost is $44 per credit. Most courses are 5-credit courses. This is a significant cost savings over post-high school tuition. Tuition is $57 per credit as a full-time student post-high school. The cost savings on the University of Washington courses is even greater. These college and the high school courses cost $65 per credit, but full-time tuition for an undergraduate student at the University of Washington is over $4,000 per quarter, If you consider that 15 credits is full-time, that equates to $268 per credit, and they are earning that college credit now for $65 per credit. Nevertheless, this cost can still be a barrier, so funds are available for students who cannot afford the costs. There is a grant through Everett Community College for those who qualify for free or reduced price meals. And we have grants also through OSPI and other sources to make funds available to others. Of the 5,900 high school students who were in Everett Public Schools in the 2020 school year, 67% took one or more dual credit courses. Dual credit courses in which students can earn both high school and college credit include advanced placement, college in the high school, running start, and career and technical education dual credit courses. 45% of those 5,900 high school students were enrolled that year in college and high school courses. That's more than 2,600 students. And college and the high school is the most common type of dual credit course offered in Everett Public Schools. Not all the students earn college credit. You can be in a course like pre-calculus where you may earn college credit, but you don't necessarily need to sign up for the college credit. To earn college credit in a college and the high school course, a student needs to apply to the college, either Everett Community College or University of Washington, and pay the fees, or apply for a scholarship, and we will help them do those things. Students do start a college transcript, so they need to be aware of the implications on their grade point average and other sorts of things as they begin that transcript. Until this year, one other requirement was that they had to be in grades 10 through 12. I just want to share a few developments this year. First, thanks to a new state law that was passed in the last legislative session, introduced by Director Berg in her role as state legislator, 9th grade students are now eligible to earn college credit in college and the high school courses. Previously, this was only available to 10th through 12th grade students, even though there are significant numbers of 9th graders taking courses such as Spanish 2, AP Environmental Science, and AP Human Geography, all of which are college and the high school courses through Everett Community College. Now, our 9th graders are eligible and can start earning college credit. Second, our academic acceleration policy, which is 2216, is aligned with a state law that was passed in 2019, requiring that starting this school year, students who meet or exceed standard on state assessments are automatically enrolled in the next most rigorous course in that subject area or a related area, with the goal of all students enrolling in dual credit. These courses need to align with their high school and beyond plan and there is an opt-out option for parents and students. But the goal is really that all our students have access to dual credit courses. And finally, starting last year, our staff members collaborated with Everett Community College to create a full year course at our high schools that meets graduation requirements in social studies, specifically the civics requirement, and is a rigorous ethnic studies course as well. Students enrolling in this course can earn 10 college credits through Everett Community College, a humanities course called Introduction to American Cultural Studies, and a political science course, American Government. This course, the Ethnic Studies and Civics course, will be taught this year at all our comprehensive high schools, and over 200 students across the district have enrolled in this course. We are excited to expand this and other offerings to provide access to rigorous, relevant, and culturally responsive coursework that provides college credit to our students. Again, I just want to thank you for providing this opportunity for me to share about the college and the high school program, both to you and our community, to share about the continued partnerships with both the University of Washington and Everett Community College, and the expanding opportunities for students to earn college credit while in the supportive environments of our high schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a great presentation. I just wanted to point out to the public that at our summer workshop, we discussed taking some of the items that are often in the consent agenda that we approve, and these are the two contracts for the college and the high school, and actually provide a little more context and background around them, which is both very informational for us directors and also I think for the public who, if they see the contract, you can read a contract, but this is more meaningful information. So I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through this and share this with us as well.
Thank you.
Directors or student representatives, are there any questions or comments regarding the presentation? Director Nichols.
Through Everett Community College, are we accessing any of the WSU coursework that they're co-located with?
Currently not at this time. As I understand it, the WSU is for juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
And so they're really, they start at Everett Community College and then enroll in WSU when they are at that level.
Understood, thanks.
And I have a question too, because I heard from a community member this summer, so I don't think I appreciate it as a parent, but her child was able to sign up for AP and college in the high school, so got all of those credits, especially getting getting the 4 above on the AP and then college. Is that publicly known? Like, is that on any stuff? Did I just miss it? Or is it really, really available for parents to understand that how much those classes are worth when it comes to college?
Thank you for asking that question. We do have a number of courses that are called co-delivered courses where students can earn AP credit through taking the AP exam and college and the high school credit through paying the fees for the college credit. We have a number of those courses, and it is probably, it is in our course catalog. It is also on the websites of the colleges to explain that. And in some of the legislation that's passed recently, there has been a request that districts make that more transparent. And so as we publish our course catalogs and as we put that information out, as students begin to register for the following year, it's really important. And now it's just as important that our middle schools understand that as well, for what they are starting in 9th grade and all the opportunities that they have, and also what are the ramifications of those opportunities.
Well, and a secondary question because I believe we do have some funding source for kids for that AP fee, as well as now college and the high school. If a student were to pursue both of those, would they be able to get awarded for both of those?
Yes, thank you.
Just so that they could get as many credits as possible?
Yes, so students can access it, particularly students who are on, who qualify for free or reduced lunch. Their fee is waived for the AP exam, and they can have their fees waived through Everett Community College, and they can earn credit in both ways. The college is likely to only apply one of those.
Okay.
So students who are planning to attend college in-state may choose the college and the high school because those are transferable credits, but that might not be true if they're planning to attend out of state. So there's some advantage to doing both, but only the college is likely only to apply one of those types of credits.
Okay, thank you.
I've got kind of a question / comment, just because I love these programs, but it also, as a parent, just frustrates me. And I think I've said this before, and I just want to make sure that we're really being clear with our parents. Because to your point, Director Mitchell, having those options, getting those credits, it's not a guarantee. And so I've just been, this year, we've had a lot of our kids going through AP Environmental Sciences, and they're excited, and they're doing the summer homework, and they're like, wow, and the parents are like, this is awesome, they're going to get this credit. And I'm making sure, as I talk to these parents who are reaching out, saying, it's only if the college takes the credit and if they score a certain number on this very high stakes test. And with that class in particular being given to 9th graders and having them go straight, accelerated into it from coordinated science. And in a lot of schools, AP Environmental Science is not given until later in their academic progression because it is more of a culmination of skills, right? In terms of your math and your science skills. At Jackson, we've decided to do that in 9th grade. As a parent, that hat, wholly disagree, because it sets up a lot of our kids for lots of frustration and potential heartbreak, because it does impact not just them not scoring well, but them basically downgrading their GPA. Because if they don't get a, which they would have gotten in a normal bio course, now you're never going to graduate with a 4.0. And it stresses kids out. So I just want to make sure we're being super honest with people. Like, getting college credit is great, but at some point, high school is good too. And I think with all of these options, it's awesome, but you've got really stressed out kids, really stressed out parents. And by the way, they're listening to NPR telling them that you're behind by 7 months. And so that doesn't help. And so I just want to make sure we're really mindful of all the messaging around it, especially what I've heard as a parent coming out of Jackson. It's stressful. It's crazy making. And the parents take it all in and they go and they start writing checks, to the college board and to college and the high school. And let me get all these credits. And come senior year, the schools are like, we're not taking that. And they're like, but no, these are college credits. They're only college credits if a college takes them. So I just want to make sure we're making that super, super clear for parents and guardians and for our students.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you,
And
Dr.
anything we
Berg.
can do to help, because I guess that's the other piece. I know they're looking to us as community leaders, and if we're telling them, yeah, run that race harder, we're not doing them a good service, so.
Yeah, I will say I took AP Environmental Science my freshman year, and I guess I have two things on that. One of them being, I'm really excited that college and the high school is now offered to ninth graders. I really commend your work on that. When I was in ninth grade, I was taking pre-calc my freshman year, and I happened to be the only freshman in that class period. And so one day everyone was signing up for college in the high school, and I just sat down and just stared at my hands the entire period. And I remember that so clearly because I kept asking my teacher, why can't I sign up for it? And he was like, you just can't because you're a ninth grader. And I was like, but I'm in the class and I do the work every day, same as these older students. So that's another thing about courses, that not only are ninth graders taking them, but there's not really the same linear progression as there is in 6th and 7th grade, even 8th grade coming into it. This applies as well. But once you're in high school, it's such a mix of different grade levels in a course that to say Spanish 2 or pre-calculus or environmental science or any of those courses would only apply to older students, and that students doing the same work in the same class. I always found that kind of ridiculous. And I guess even after that, I fell down the AP tract, and now as a senior, one of my biggest regrets, I guess, is not having participated in college in the high school. It was sort of one of those things where it seemed almost too good to be true, because I would be in a Spanish 2 class, which is obviously not an honors course and not an AP course. And so I was like, this is just a high school course that I'm taking. And one day the teacher stands up and is like, you can get college credit for this. And I was like, why? This is a sophomore class. Why would I be getting college credit for that? And I sort of just brushed it off. But I think, again, like Director Berg was talking about, a lot of it is the culture of students and parents and how they discuss the courses that they're taking and how rigorous they are and how prestigious they are. AP kids get this sort of mindset that is when I'm in an AP course, I'm in go mode. And when I'm in a regular class, I can just sit back and put my feet up on the desk. But I think really that is shifting a little bit. I know a lot more people are participating in college and the high school. And I think it's a really good medium because there are so many courses like biology, like Spanish, just math courses that students will be taking no matter what. And all they have to do is sign up to get that credit. And for me, I don't know if I just was missing something, but it just seemed too good to be true. And I just completely passed up on that opportunity because I was like, no, I'm going to do AP. So it just didn't make a lot of sense in my head. And so I think the messaging is getting a lot better, is what I'm trying to say in a lot of words.
Good, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I did college and high school last year as a sophomore. I did it for my French 2 class and my AP US History. And it was a great option. I really liked doing college and the high school. And I feel like a lot of people at Cascade didn't really understand it because there was a lot of questions about it and not a lot of kids did it. A lot of people just didn't understand it, but I asked my teacher about it more and I ended up doing it for both of those classes. And I feel like that really benefited me, and it was a smart choice to do it because it was really easy to just take the class as a normal class, but get the credit for it without having to do a lot more and still being able to understand it at my level. So I think doing college and high school was a great choice, and it helped me a lot, at least.
Good, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any further questions or comments, so I will thank you again, Dr. Woods, for a great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Our next item of business is a summer update. item 12.02, and I looked over this presentation, and boy, do we do a lot in the summer in this district. I think people think that we're all on vacation, which does happen, but it's a long summer, a longer summer, and so I'm excited to share with the public and others what people were up to this summer, the busyness.
Thank you. And we do want to emphasize this is the summer update to what got us to the kickoff last week. And in 2 weeks, we'll be giving you the beginning of school information. So this won't have anything that's happened in the last couple days, but we will have that for you in 2 weeks. So tonight we're going to talk about the different things that we did to prepare for this last week, which included the Summer Leadership Institute, professional learning for our staff, a new leader induction, different things about our summer school programming, how we prepared for the fall, and some of our SEL investments. And we are going to start with Dr. Scott.
Thank you, and good evening, Board of Directors, President Mason, Dr. Saltzman. It was indeed a very busy summer, and we're really proud of the work that we put in to invest in what we're calling sort of cascading investments. So making sure that what we're learning as professionals are evident in school improvement planning and department planning and coherent to our entire organization. So we're really proud to showcase that this evening. One of the key investments we made in launching the school year was our Summer Leadership Institute, running 5 days from August 2 through 6. And the purpose of the Institute was to strengthen leadership practices to continue to improve our 4 pillars: climate, culture, systems, and instruction, in our areas of leadership, influence, and responsibility. And the success criteria for this week included, again, those cascading key priorities from the strategic plan as the baseline, and opening logistics so that we can do 2 things. One is that each leader would be equipped to lead their respective teams in successfully launching the school year around those priorities. And 2, so that the design of the September Learning Improvement Days, or the LID days on September 1 and 2, with staff reflected those. So those were some of our success criteria. And of course, we did it with a great amount of fun. And you can see some pictures here, examples of the theme, Superheroes Meet the Olympics. So that was right in the wheelhouse of the Olympics when we did this. The Institute focused on, again, unpacking the strategic plan, leaders locating themselves within the plan, their roles in carrying out the plan, and communicating effectively in their areas of responsibility, with specific emphasis on what you can see here: instructional improvement, social emotional learning investments and integration, leading for equitable outcomes, family community engagement, and again, a deeper dive into those stakeholder perceptions so that we could improve our strategy around family and community engagement, and of course, operational and logistic updates in starting the new school year. So we intentionally built in collaborative time, fun time to build team, and that, again, we had the ability to build out our school improvement plans and our department action plans.
Well, summer is also a great opportunity for professional learning, and I'm excited to share with you some of the professional learning opportunities that we've provided to our staff to help them ramp back up to start successfully in the fall. This year, following our adoption of the K-5 illustrative math adoption, we held professional learning opportunities for all K through 5 teachers in 2 sessions, both in June and in August, where teachers could get the training that they needed to implement their curricula. We had almost 400 teachers in June taking advantage of that June opportunity, and another 200 in August. We have additional makeup sessions this September to catch late hires, as well as anybody who did miss it if they still need that. In addition, we had several learning opportunities for teachers to learn more about how they can harness the use of Performance Matters, the assessments and analytics tool. And we also provided multiple sessions around the science of reading, which is helping our teachers to incorporate the 5 components that are essential to an effective reading program into their daily lessons, so including phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And this, of course, helps us to advance our strategic priority around developing third grade literacy. Finally, another piece that I'd really like to highlight as a part of our professional learning this summer is professional learning opportunities we provided for our paraeducators. As you know, our paraeducators provide critical support to our instructional teams. And on August 31st, we held a professional learning session where we held over 80 courses with 44 instructors. Sorry, I've got to look at my notes because there's a bunch of numbers on here. Over 3,200 clock hours awarded in one day, serving over 494 paraeducators within our system. This session we opened with an overview of the strategic plan to help inform and bring our team along. And then district leaders helped to facilitate the learning around those sessions, anywhere from using technology to support students, instructional strategies for students with disabilities, and current issues like education right now, like multi-language services and tools to support LGBTQ students. In addition, we also had some pretty celebratory pieces of new hire orientation. And in this professional learning session, we continued to develop the people who we've brought on board to our great district in helping to celebrate and get them focused on gearing up to start their year the right way. Over 120 certificated instructional staff were invited to a 4-day event at Eisenhower Middle School where they received professional learning in instructional technology, including how to access online curriculum portals and their Canvas platform. But we also led the learning of these teachers in operational areas like how do you access your benefits through human resources, and grading. How do you grade for equity with your students? Under the leadership of our professional learning director, Mimi Brown, and the best new teacher induction mentors, new certificated teachers had the opportunity to learn about multi-tiered systems of support, social emotional learning, as well as the content area to support and equip their staff for planning for their instruction this year. Finally, we intentionally built in opportunities for some fun because icebreakers and games often can foster that team building that we wanted our teachers to engage in. And it provides that networking for new teachers so that they don't feel alone, and connected them with their in-building mentors as well. And that connection with one another really helped to build their own systems of support for success this year.
And I get to talk about our new administrator induction. And on August 24th, you got to meet this delightful and dynamic group of new administrators. You could see they brought a lot of energy from across the state and across the country. And we affectionately call this training our bus tour. There are 3 areas of focus for our bus tour. One is community connections. Then we talk about the 4 pillars, and then it's all about tools for success. So in that community connections part is one of my favorite pieces because we want to make sure that they have a real estate agent to help them find a place to live, that they know where to take their shoes to get repaired. They know the local dry cleaners, or, hey, did you know this restaurant, their children attend the school that you're going to be working at? Because it's not only being a member of the school community, but we are a part of the greater community. And we want them to feel that greater connection and support. And then, of course, the 4 pillars, we're learning that they're a part of our warm and welcoming environment, that we're building a supportive culture, and that we really want to focus on having proactive systems that can respond to our needs. And always there's an instructional focus with the students at the core. And then there were we spent a lot of time on tools for success. They needed to check out that technology that they need to use, learn how to use it, learn what resources we are fortunate to have, develop relationships, and become aware of all the support pieces we have so that they're successful. If you'll notice in all 3 of those things, support is the operative word, and building a support network is really what this bus journey did over 2 days. First of all, there was a cohort of support among the new administrators, and I had evidence this worked over the past weekend. There were 3 administrators, 2 of them from out of state and 1 from new, that met on the bus tour, and they were touring the community together, and they tweeted out a picture. So that was pretty exciting, some nice evidence that this was successful. Then we also, we had principals who were teaching some of the content courses and talking about their experiences. So they got to learn from our existing network. They engaged in structured activities with the mentor who's going to be assisting them all year. And they got to meet district administrators across the board. So it was a very exciting and very engaging time. And we're really thrilled to have our new administrators on board with us.
So it wouldn't be summer without summer school, and we have a whole menu of summer school options. This summer we served over 4,400 students in all of our programs, K-12. So starting with elementary, our elementary programs took place this summer in August. And really, it wasn't just learning math and reading, which we certainly did lots of academics, social emotional learning, and really thinking about the transition to the new school year was really key to making sure that everything was successful. So our Everett Ready program is for our kindergartens. Jumpstart was a new version of some programming we've had in the past that really talks about our first and second graders coming in and being ready for school, especially after this last year and a half. Our summer experience is our summer elementary program, and this year served our fourth and fifth graders. And then we have recovery services for our students with IEPs. For our middle school students, there's also a whole host of programs. We have our Pathway to Math Success, which is for students who are working on getting to grade level in their math standards. Bridge to Compacted Math, which is for students who want to enter the compacted math pathways that are available. Cadence Math and English Language Arts is a new program to us. It's from National Summer School Institute. We had 120 students participate in the program. It really allows for discourse and problem solving, really interesting novels that are really appropriate for middle school students with tough topics, and a lot of engagement pieces. So really successful. We'll probably build that one out for next year. Our English Learner program has been a strong program that really supports a whole range of our English Learner students. And again, we have recovery services for our middle school students as well. For high school, we also have a long host of different items available. So our credit recovery program has been successful, has really supported our students in making sure that they're on track for graduation. Our online high school is how many students get ahead in terms of their credits. And so thank you very much to this board, because tuition was free. And what we saw as a result of that is that in the past, we usually had about 200 courses completed through online high school. This year it was 455. So we know that students took advantage of that offering. And so that's a great way for us to remove a barrier and allow students to really have access. We have a really robust English Learner program, a guided study program that supports students with IEPs in any of those offerings. So if they need extra support, we provide that. And internship, exploration, and mentorship programs, such that we had 30 internships completed, 29 exploration options, and 22 mentorships. Overall, we saw over 2,000 more students participate in summer programming this summer than we have in the past. And then just to give you a sense of more summer offerings, we did a lot of preparations for the fall. So this is really getting ready for the new school year. And then I'm going to have the opportunity to share with you what we did to prepare for virtual learning. So as you know, Everett Virtual Academy is for our students in kindergarten through 8th grade. We had enrollment started in June and closed August 27th. And as a result, we had a little over 700 students who enrolled with us, very interested and eager. And I can say very safely now that we're a few days in that everybody's in their classes and very happy, and we're rolling forward. The summer was spent around program development, meetings with teachers, facilitating professional learning to make sure that they really had the tools they needed to start the year. That meant learning our curriculum, making sure that they were well-versed in our digital tools, and making sure that they really understood what we meant to launch with the social emotional emphasis, which we see in all of our classes right now. We also wanted to make sure that our families were ready for this way of learning. Even though we've had this experience available, it's just different. Every time we do this, it's a little bit different, and this is different too. So we have a parent information session and a family orientation, and those were opportunities to both learn about the program overall and to make sure that they were ready as the school year started. And the year wouldn't be started off right without a lot of distribution events. So we had events so that we handed out Chromebooks to students and also the materials that they would need to start the year.
So another part of preparing for the fall was to make sure we understood all the changes that were going to be happening for this year. And a few of the big changes is, besides being back in the buildings, we have different social distancing standards than we had last year. So last year, everything was 6 feet apart, and this year, we tried to do the best we can to get 3 feet, but not to let 3 feet hinder us from having kids in the classroom. So it's a different standard. We've been working hard to make sure that we can keep kids as distant as possible and keep them safe, but get the kids in there so they can learn in person. We also have different masking than last year. You know, right now, for today, it could change tomorrow. Masking is not required outdoors. So we just have it required indoors, but not outdoors. And there's a lot of caveats there. I'm just giving you the overall general view. And then, of course, you know that for staff, we have to have our vaccinations by October 18th as a condition of our employment. So there's been a lot of changes this year from last year. So part of it's just been keeping on top of it, figuring out how to communicate it and get the information out in an understandable way. And of course, as Jeannie said, not only are we in person, but we have EVA, Everett Virtual Academy. So that's been a piece that we've been communicating to staff as well and to families. We have a new COVID family safety handbook. We have one for staff as well that we got out in August, so people could really look and see the things that we are doing this year. But we went a little bit further because only half the people came back last year. So we have some group that didn't even come back last year, and then we have things different for those who did come back. So there was a lot of communication around what are our protocols, what does this look like, what does this mean? And for those of us who have been living with the term contact tracing for 18 months, that's really foreign to some people. So what we did is we put together some scenarios. So you can see here in the bottom center, this is a scenario of a 4th grade student. And what happens if she goes to school and on this certain day and then another day she has symptoms and another day she tests? What does that mean for her? What does that mean for her principal, for her teachers, and for her classmates? And so we found that when we really put together this scenario and walk through step by step, people can see, oh, that's what that means, and that's why this means that. And it's been helpful in the first couple of days for people to be able to see the story of it rather than just the bullet points. We again, all of our standards are following the health guidance that we get from the Snohomish Health Department, and so we've updated all of our processes for COVID reporting and tracing, and really a lot of what we've been doing is just reassuring. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be new for all of us. We're excited. Our teachers, our staff, our students, we're all going to have a great time, and it's going to be okay. And so that's been a lot of the communications that we've been doing for this year too, which directly brings us in to some of the social emotional pieces.
Well, it was not long into the COVID pandemic that we all began to see that the students were going to need intentional social, emotional, and mental health supports more than ever, and in a variety of ways when they returned to full in-person learning. And this really influenced, I think, in the development of the strategic plan last year, particularly around theme A, which is developing a supportive culture where each student is engaged, thrives, and values learning. And so we put a lot of very intentional efforts last year and over the summer to assemble a suite of services for students in anticipation of their arrival back to school this year. So I wanted to share with you a few of these investments that we've made. For the first item there, Care Solace, this is, we purchased this, or we partnered with this company for a number of reasons. One is that because the shift for availability compared to need for mental health services, that really was a big transition in the spring of 2020, and it's become a lot more difficult for families and even our student counselors to make connections with our mental health agencies. Lots of voicemails and being on hold and a lot of wait time on that. And so we needed to come up with a solution that would help streamline that process. Also, our services that we provide from our schools are typically available during the school year, but after hours, on the weekends, during the vacations, summer break, we also know it's still very, very important that students and families have access to those very important resources. So Care Solace, similar to a travel agent in a way, kind of acts as a concierge. They do the legwork of making the phone calls, of returning, the voicemails, and just making sure that families have the ability to connect. So counselors, for example, would do what's called a warm handoff with a student and a family to this provider or this representative, and then they will ask some questions, get some information about what the needs really are, and then they will make all the attempts and connect with the services. And because we have remote or telehealth as an availability, they have a very in-depth list of all of our agencies that are available in Washington State, and they can tap into Apple Care and other ways as well. So we're very excited about that partnership with them. We also know that there are a lot of students that need additional supports beyond what we provide in a Tier 1 level. And so we've also partnered with an organization called Empower You that provides Tier 2 supports through daily online lessons and one-to-one Tier 2 level coaching for identified students. And so we purchased a certain number of seats for those, and students can learn or even earn an elective credit through this process. Second step, I think you may have heard of this in the past, right? That's our social emotional learning curriculum for our K-8 students, and we've had that in our district for a while. One of the changes, though, this year is that we're shifting to have it, instead of having the counselors teach lessons, which they have done in the past, particularly in elementary, where we needed to increase the frequency of those lessons, so number one. And we also needed to really truly build it into the culture of everything that we do. And so this year, the teachers are teaching the second step lessons in the elementary level, so they can teach them on a daily basis, but certainly weekly. And so we're excited about that. Also, for the secondary, we have partnered with the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence to bring Ruler to our district. And Ruler is a social emotional framework that helps guide, basically it's about how we speak with each other. It's about developing an emotions matter mindset and developing emotional intelligence amongst all of our stakeholders. So first our staff, and then our students, and also our families. And we are in the year right now where after last winter, we trained some core teams at each of our secondary schools, and this year we're rolling this out to our staff and for training, and then the next phase of that will be to roll that out to our students. And again, it's very, very important that our staff really internalize this and it becomes part of the culture. Everything that we do in staff meetings, conversations that we have, even resolving conflicts potentially between staff members, so that we can build that into this is how we speak. So we're excited about that. And then we've also, so now, just adding on to Dr. Nichols and Director Berg of the Suicide Prevention Month, last spring, we applied to the University of Washington Forefront in the Schools, and we were accepted for all 4 of our high schools to participate. It's a sustainable and comprehensive framework for crisis response infrastructure, suicide prevention, intervention, reentry, and postvention for our high schools. And we're in the year 1 of that, where we'll start our training, and then it'll roll into the second phase next year, where we'll train all of our students and our families, and then beyond that, it's a matter of sustaining that. But we'll have district-wide alignment and vocabulary and systems in place for that. Third Millennium is a program that we've purchased centrally for each of our high schools. It's an alternative to suspension program, particularly around substance abuse, nicotine, vaping, but also they also have components around conflict resolution, anger management, and then there are some components for parents and guardians as well to follow along with their students. We want to say a very special thank you to our school board for providing the ability to bring 3 social worker positions to our school district this year. And they will help our schools develop Tier 3 interventions and supports for students exhibiting severe emotional dysregulation and perhaps behavioral disruptions. They'll provide technical assistance, training, and coaching to school teams to increase the capacity of trauma-informed practices, and they'll establish networks with our community partners to better support Everett students and the needs of their families. In pre-COVID times, we had some on-site agency therapists in many of our schools. And again, since the late spring of 2020, the supply and demand curve shifted dramatically. And so one of the roles of the new social workers will be to build close partnerships with our local mental health agencies and continually recruit on-site therapists to serve in our local schools. So we are excited about the SEL focus that our teachers and leadership teams opened the school year with. And we want to thank our school board for your emphasis on well-being and social emotional learning and your investment in bringing these important resources to Everett. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of information to digest there. I'm going to turn it over to my left here and ask if any student representatives or directors have questions or anything to share.
Start with the students.
I guess I want to start with a tough sort of question, comment. I kind of wanted to mention this in my comments, but then I wanted to hold off and see if there was something about it where it'd be a better time to bring it up. But I guess I would like to ask if there is any enforcement and disciplinary actions that we have in place for students not complying with the mask mandate. In the last few weeks, last week, I've been really excited to see my fellow classmates' eyes and not so excited to see their mouths and their noses when their masks are below their noses and below their chins. I've also seen a lot of social media controversy around masks at football games. Many of the directors have said that they've been at football games. I've been at a football game, and many students are not wearing masks at football games. Photo evidence of it, we've all seen it, and it needs to be discussed and addressed, because not only have I seen those photos being posted and shared, but I've also seen immunocompromised students share their experiences and their feelings about that. Specifically, someone I know who's immunocompromised has basically put out a statement saying, it makes me really uncomfortable to know that students are at these football games without their masks on, in class with their masks below their nose, in class with their masks below their chin even at times. I had a friend come up to me in third period today and say, I just watched a kid in my second period go through the entire 60-minute period without having a mask on the entire time. And I understand that some teachers might be uncomfortable enforcing that, but our immunocompromised students are uncomfortable attending schools and knowing that they have to look these kids in the eyes, sit next to them every single day, and know what a major risk that is to their health. And I think it's really unfair to be putting students in that position. And so I would just like to ask if there are existing measures for disciplinary action, if there are existing guidances for teachers to confront those situations, because there is such a political controversy over the nature of masks and COVID restrictions that might make it uncomfortable for teachers, which I can understand. But I just think that we can't remain on this cloud nine of, we're so excited to be back in school. This is something that really, really needs to be addressed, or else we're not going to be in school for as long as we would like to be.
Yeah, really appreciate those comments, Tara, because I want to just give a little bit of background about how we're addressing those. So part of our summer preparation was really reviewing the evolving information coming from the Department of Health, the Snohomish Health District, making sure that everything that we do in all of our correspondence, in fact, all of our practice, and literally up to and including role playing with our administrators, that they take on that responsibility to make sure that they start with the big why stay in the lane of what the Department of Health and the Snohomish Health District is requiring us. Mask mandates coming down from the governor's office to make sure that we are in compliance there. And it really is the role, it's a team approach, but it really comes down to the discipline piece that you're talking about, really comes down to the principal enforcing those in partnership with the teachers when and where we see that. And that starts with counseling, that starts with conversations, again, going back to the why we have this and why we want to keep everybody else safe and not have those compromising situations you're talking about there. With respect to the football game, for example, this last Friday, the mask mandate for crowds over 500 went into effect this past Monday. So we sort of missed it by a weekend, but we were mindful of literally taking verbatim the Department of Health rules in our signage around the stadium, and we will absolutely make sure that folks know that are attending that what those current guidelines are.
Because I really respect and admire, and I'm really grateful that we had that training and that planning over the summer. But I guess part of the reason that I sit here and I come to these meetings is to tell you what's happening in the school and in the classroom. And it's just not being enforced as much as I and a lot of other students would feel comfortable with. And so I guess my request is if that could be emphasized again and again to teachers, that is their responsibility to be enforcing that. I also know, like, as a student, it's uncomfortable to walk up to another student and say, why is your mask below your nose? That can get you into social conflicts, that can get you into conversations. And so I guess I don't want to put all the responsibility on you guys, but it is the adult's responsibility in a situation like that to make sure that students are feeling comfortable. And so I'm just here to tell you what I'm seeing, and no matter all the work that went into it, what the reality is looking like right now in classrooms. And it's pretty good. Everyone has a mask with them at least, but I've seen here and there some things that are concerning.
Yeah,
I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you so much for sharing for the feedback. I appreciate that.
I'm very, very thankful you said that, because you guys are so important for how we serve. So thank you. I just have a question about virtual, if that's okay. First off, Jeannie, as I've been out there doing vaccine programs, so many parents that are vaccinating their 12-year-olds, so very thankful for the virtual program, because they have little ones that even though their 12-year-olds are vaccinated, they're putting all their K-8s in virtual. How did you guys prepare for staffing when I think the numbers were expecting 200-300 early, and now you're at 700?
Yeah, so we had surveyed families in the spring and May, and at that point, it looked like we were going to have around 200 to 250 students in our K-8 program. And what we saw with the upswing of the Delta variant is that we saw also a greater need for the program. So at that point, we all shifted. It was a group effort, and reached out to teachers that had been interested all along, and then did more hiring, identified more spaces. Really, it meant group effort because it impacted all of our schools who are all helping with all of those pieces. So we scaled up as quickly as we could, and were able to hire and have all of our staff participate in our lid days and be ready for kids to attend on September 9th.
Okay, thank you. And then is it similar to the previous remote learning where it's asynchronous and synchronous?
Yes, 70%, but it's actually more than that in the day is synchronous, so live with the teacher. And so during that time, the teacher is teaching the lessons, breakout groups, interacting, but it doesn't mean just sitting in front of the computer. Students are asked to move around and do other things. And then at the end of the day, they have 45 minutes of asynchronous time, which is some of the time that they use for some of the reflection from the school day, iReady for our K-5 students, Imagine Learning for some of our EL students. So it's a time set aside for students to work on things specific to them.
And then last question, because a young lady, I said, oh, what school are you going to?
She had a lot of information.
she kind of said, she goes, and she told her middle school, and then her mom goes, oh, but you're virtual. So I said, so I was sort of like, are the kids, I see the shirts and everything for Virtual Academy. Is that their school alignment, or is there any link to their previous homeschool or their future homeschool?
Everett Virtual Academy is its own school. I know that they still have identity at their resident school, so I would imagine that. I do know, just to speak to that point, that we have many parents interested in having some kind of organization at the Everett Virtual Academy. So I can also say that they're trying to make it their own. And every school that's a middle or elementary school is represented there. And so I really see it having its own identity. And at some point, of course, some of them are certainly going to go back to their resident school when things change. But I think that they also feel very committed to the program
Yeah.
as well.
And then I was also, sorry, last question, because I heard the number 700. I mean, that's the size of Penny Creek. It is sort of, we don't have a school board member representing that program. So maybe it's an opportunity for us too, to sort of represent, help you and everything. So just putting that out there that we technically have a new school.
Of course, yes. Yeah, that would be wonderful. I'd be happy to have all of you, actually.
Thank you. And I think that the most important thing to our students' comments, it's the parents who want their kids vaccinated, but because that kid going to school, questions about safety, bringing it home to their kids who can't be vaccinated. I'm really glad we're able to support those parents.
Yeah, I am too.
So I've got a question about, and kind of on the same note with virtual, sorry.
I should have waited.
Yeah, and I guess in my brain, I guess it didn't click that we were only doing K-8 for virtual, and it makes sense, I get it, right? It's harder to offer. But I have heard from even previously to schools opening, just folks who are worried about their high schoolers and having that opportunity and option to not necessarily go into our schools. And much to Tara's kind of point, my kids have mentioned the exact same things, and my sophomore at least, and also the crowd, like the hallways are packed, and that's always been the case. But she's 5'3". She's like, Mom, I can't see above half the kids. I just go with the wave to get to class and hope that I end up in the right door. It's literally that packed, and I think everybody here knows that. But when you add in a pandemic and a virus and variant, and a lot of the kids are saying it's a political statement, right? So they are doing the half nose, half chin thing to make sure everybody knows where their politics are, which is ridiculous. So all that to say, are we offering anything for our parents? And I know not physically, but guidance on, look, if you don't feel comfortable sending your kid to one of our comprehensive high schools because of whatever reason, here's how you access Port Gardner. Here's how you access, Running Start would be a potential fit for some kiddos because a lot of those classes are still virtual. And even some of the ones that aren't as packed. Are we giving them kind of like a resource guide to say, look, we get it. This is not ideal for everyone, but here's how we're gonna help you get across the finish line of high school graduation.
So what we've done is we've actually navigated to our counselors because there are many different options for students. And it depends what their plan is, their high school and beyond plan is. I mean, it will change what those options really look like. So Running Start is definitely an option. It has online pieces, but that may not be for all kids. So for some kids, that's the right choice. For some of our students going to online high school that's attached to Sequoia, is something that many of our students have had in the past, but has not been a full-time option. And so one of the things that we've worked on because of some of the feedback is that there are a few offerings that online high school does not have at this time. Science is one of them. And so what we've done is students can take most of their classes through online high school, and at this time, and this just happened last week, our counselors can sign students up for any of those additional classes through Spokane Virtual, but largely the classes are held with our teachers here, and it's really for perhaps one class, something that would be missing that's part of their plan, and that's why the counselor is key, because there's not one way to go about building that plan.
Okay, so just so we understand, so the parent or the student raises their hand and say, this is not gonna work for me, and then they talk to, whoever they raise their hand to, they're gonna say, look, talk to your counselor will walk you through your options, is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure, because I want to be able to tell parents and more of them are
Now
getting.
our counselors are really going to have a lot of people coming to them with that, but they have been working through many different questions with families, and
folks are just
they are very skilled at this.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Well, I'm so grateful that this summer was a very large learning opportunity for not only students, but staff. I'm very happy about the 4,400 students in summer school, and I'm so happy that summer school was free for those kids. and the 455 online high school kids that took accelerated classes or completed additional classes. You know, I look at this as a positive thing. Even though it was a pandemic, I think we can continue this on forward because it gives students an opportunity to complete classes. And I don't know what tomorrow will bring or next year will bring, but I think we've shown that we can do it and that we should be doing this continuously in the future.
Yeah, thank you. I think that this has been a great opportunity for our kids. And I think opening it up allowed them to access classes that they just didn't feel like they could access in the past, and things have changed. So this is going to make an important difference to them. So thank you.
Especially because high school now requires 24 credits.
Oh, yes.
And then if a student misses just one class, you could be behind, you fail a class, or for whatever reason they can't complete it and get get adequate grades in that class or credit for that class.
That's right. Also opens up their schedule to take many different offerings that only happen during the school year.
Exactly.
So that's another way that it works.
This is very good.
Pam, may I interrupt, sorry to interrupt, a clarifying question of whomever. Summer school free was CARES dollars, or was that district dollars?
District dollars.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And I do know ESER paid for some things out of that.
Yes, it did. Our Jumpstart program, our Everett Ready, it helped with some of the pieces, our Cadence program. So those were great additions to our summer lineup.
That's our next presentation.
There you go.
Exactly. And I'm so grateful for the staff professional development during that time. Because even though it was a pandemic and we had to social distance and we had masking, you could see from the pictures that I think we engaged a lot of teachers and staff. So
Definitely.
that's fantastic.
It was pretty fun too.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Everybody, it was very well put together. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
So just briefly, I want to say thank you to Dr. Saltzman and making sure we got those social workers onboarded, and that we've really been able to push forward with a lot of the mental health care initiatives that we want to do. And also thank you to Mr. Peters for following through with Forefront. The one thing I will ask and I'm sure this is already part of your process improvement plan, is that when we look at utilizing community service providers, there's lots of good reasons to use community service providers, like continuity of care outside of school and all those other types of things. But when it ends up happening, when you bring in your own mental health staff, like social workers, is they are the most convenient, so they're the ones that get utilized first. And at some point, that demand is going to exceed it, and at some point it's going to make sense for us to bring more mental health clinicians on staff as opposed to relying on outside services. So just want to make sure that we're looking at that financial aspect and how we can serve our students best. But otherwise, super excited about that.
I guess I'm only just going to express a little bit of caution or concern as we move forward, in that I look forward to learning more. I'm looking at the SEL investments, and so many of those programs are new to us this year, and I'm very conflicted as a director because we need these programs in place, and yet it seems like we're rolling everything out at once this year. And I know that sometimes that can be a tremendous impact on human resources and training and time in a year when we're already relearning and coming back up to speed in the classroom. So I'll just look forward to an update maybe mid-year or later in the year when we can sort of better understand how the engagement of these different opportunities have taken hold throughout the district. And with that said, it was a brief enough overview that I didn't really understand who's in training for what, but it just seemed like a lot of new. So I think with that, go ahead.
If I could just add one thing, Tara, I know we spoke yesterday and I will tell you, I'm going to make a video using my feed, which is Twitter, and I will address the students. I'll get with Kathy tomorrow. I'll make a little video on Twitter for about a minute just to be responsible and to wear those masks. I'll do it tomorrow night, and I'll put it out before Friday's game. And I just want to remind the public too, we recently made a video, me and the mayor and other dignitaries to just to continue being safe, continue masking up, and let's vaccinate, not procrastinate. And this is for everybody out there in our community. But I promised you, I know we meet the day before every board meeting and we talk about things, but I will make a video with Kathy Reeves and get that out to our student leaders.
Because I know you've been going to the games. You could even say it just straight to the crowd. Hey, pull out a mask out of your pocket, put it on.
And you see me have my mask out there in my corner, so, but absolutely, we will get, and we'll even get, I'll get with Danny and Peter, and we'll make announcements on the intercom during the game. So we'll do that as we work on this. So we have work to do, but I can assure you we'll get it done.
I'd like to also make a comment there that not only is it for students, but it's also for teachers and staff, because students are looking to the teachers and staff to make the comment.
Absolutely.
Because they feel uncomfortable making it to their peers. And that when the staff can see it as well and do the job of saying so to a student, it doesn't put a peer in that peer pressure zone.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saltzman, for that. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to our next item of information and discussion, 12.03, which is our elementary and secondary school emergency relief update or funding update. And I think this fits in quite well with a lot of the information that we just received and how things are getting paid for. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much, and thank you for clarifying the acronym ESER, because we use it so freely. Our audience certainly needs to understand that. I'm happy to be here tonight and welcome student directors. I do want to point out for our constituency, or for those who are watching and in the audience, that this is an update of several discussions we've had moving forward on the use of ESER funds. Most recently, I would refer them to the March 16th study session, which really had information relative to ESER 1 and 2, and then the July 1st first reading of the budget, which had the beginning of this draft plan. And I will also say that the summary of the draft plan is attached to the agenda item on the board. So tonight, and I think you well stated, a lot of the work, there is a significant level of detail that is behind the numbers. And I think you heard from our prior presentation the power of how these ESER funds are being used. I'm going to go through the more or less the just the funding timeline. I'm going to remind our community that there's 3 different acts. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've spent to date and show you how it was spent, which is sort of a summary. And then looking forward, I'm going to review just a little bit of how that plan that we reviewed in July lays out. So with that, the ESER was provided to schools districts on 3 different phases. The first was in March of 2002 at the onset. The second was December of 2020, and more recently, March 11th. I know that it has specific deadlines that we have listed here. However, they have the caveat that you can carry over money for 1 more year. So with each of that, keep in mind. This is also a diagram that we showed at the prior meeting that more or less kind of lays it out. We don't have this, but we'll have this on our website soon. And I really understand, you have to understand that the intent is for us to utilize these resources in the sequence because they each have staggered deadlines. We have been aggressive about claiming that funding. The legislature has been looking to the extent that we're relying upon these resources. And I think we would all agree that so far we put it to good use, and I think we have a solid plan going forward. As you can see, and we discussed at the last meeting, the initial investments were really about survival, about recovery, about trying to figure out how to get our kids in school, about PPEs, about MERV filters. And over time, as we got into ESER 2, it became more about social emotional learning and learning and recovery, as we just witnessed about the programs that occurred this summer. And looking forward, the emphasis of ESER 3 really is more about emotional health and learning and recovery. And that was one of Dr. Saltzman's priorities in May when we began to look at what does the roadmap look like for ESER 3. The funding itself requires 20% be devoted to those categories. And you'll see, and I think we saw in July, we're committing almost 60% of it for that purpose. So that is the overall story. Of course, with 37 million there, and I'll show you next, we have spent, whoops, getting a little ahead of myself. We have spent 8.9 million to date claimed, realizing that we have to spend the funding, we have to claim it, and then receive it. And so that's where we are at this point in time. That means we have $26.8 million to put into supporting our students and our system over the next 2+ years. We have fully expended ESER 1. We have 61% of ESER 2 spent, and we've begun to utilize ESER 3, particularly in the summer. There also is a fourth category that we don't often talk about, and that's FEMA. FEMA has been available to us as a separate application process, but is really strictly related to protective equipment and PPEs. It's very restrictive. We've spent every dollar. If we continue to be eligible, we'll continue to apply there first rather than applying to ESER, trying to keep that intact for us moving forward as we work through these difficult times. Looking backward, when you look at those categories, you'd find this back in the March meeting. You'll see that we've really evolved. As I mentioned, this was about recovery. And the biggest segment here you can see is enrollment, food services, and funding shortfalls. Enrollment, food services, funding shortfall, and unemployment. And if you recall, that big lion's share was relative to in the spring when we kept our employees employed even though there was no revenue. Also, as Dr. Francois knows, our unemployment pool hit a very difficult time, so there's a large amount of unemployment that was used there. And then finally, as we know, the legislature, when it concluded, it looked at districts that had ESER funding and said, because your student enrollment dropped, you need to use those funds to cover the costs, and we're not going to invest state funding. So when you look at this chart, you can see the other systems in place, indoor air quality, et cetera, but the lion's share of it was really used to date about getting through the year and covering our revenue losses. So as we look forward and we begin to talk about ESER 3, I know that in May we had the first wave of the academic student well-being and recovery plan provided to you. But we were also probably one of the early adopters to begin to create this ESER 3 expenditure plan. And the reason we did it before the budget adoption was because we needed to ensure we had adequacy, ensure we had sustainability. The message clearly is don't add the FTE because it may not be sustainable. And then we had to pace it over the 2 years. And so that's why we went through the process. And prior to that meeting, on June 7th, we had the Fiscal Advisory Council look at it. On June 10th, we had a community conversation and List Connect. And so as we look at the background of this, we have a plan in place that we know will evolve. And I think it will evolve now that we've begun school and we've seen how the needs are different. So we will continue to evolve that plan. We also more recently have 1 million, as you can see, the third category, from the IDEA, for our special education programs. And as you can see, we're just underway with that. There are certain investments we plan on. We've applied to OSPI for approval of the baseline plan, and more specificity will come before you in the future. And so, as I mentioned, the ESER 3 plan, this is the slide that we looked at on July 1st. And as I mentioned, not just 20%, but under the second bullet, when you look at both the enhanced learning opportunities and social emotional supports that Dave Peters mentioned so well, that is 60% of it dedicated at this time moving forward. The other categories may be sort of self-explanatory, but let me talk a little bit about this big, largest piece of the pie, because really what that is comprised of is class size reduction. And class size reduction means that when we opened up the virtual academy, we didn't take resources from the school. To some extent, now that the academy has grown and the schools are smaller, we are shifting those resources, but we invested in lower class size across the system. We've added paraeducator hours at every school. We expanded the transitional K program, and we've enhanced athletics and activities engagement through coordinators and other supports for our schools in the event that they don't raise their ASB funds, for example. So when you look at that big piece of the pie, I would refer you to the attachment and be happy to provide any additional information. But I think we adequately went through, or we completely went through social emotional. I know under equitable access, I know we have some behavior analysts, we have some diversity training and inclusion, we have some PD for special education on social emotional learning, and then we have some support for assisted technology. So in a nutshell, we've spent $8.9 million. We have an underlying plan in place. We are on pace with the plan. The plan will evolve. I think in the next few weeks, as our team begins to do the second update to you that's a part of that recovery plan to OSPI, we'll have a little bit more information here. So I hope that brings you up to speed with where we are with the use of the funds, and hope it helps our community have the resources they need if they want to look into it further. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate this presentation. I especially like the breakdown in the attachment. So, these are a lot of big numbers, and it's a great opportunity to really dive into where the dollars are going. And I most importantly appreciate how the funding is really weighted towards enhanced learning and the social emotional supports. I think that for the public, and it's easy to assume that we're in a pandemic, we get a big dump of money, and that it's going to kind of fix everything. And why are we still getting money, in year 2 and year 3? And I think, the Delta variant has clearly shown that this is going to go on a little bit, and it's still impacting our environment and the way that kids learn. And it's going to take a while to get out of this, and it's not a one and done with this funding. So I appreciate the thought and the planning that has gone into how these funds will be spent over multiple years ahead, that we're still going to be able to provide these social, emotional, and academic supports to the students, because they're going to need it.
I might comment that I really think that's important, because our community needs to understand that this funding is actually isolated. There's barriers from having it be spent on the things that we do before the pandemic. It's not a replacement for any other fund. It's important that they understand that. Secondly, I think when we always look at our legislative advocacy, additional social emotional supports, it's really an opportunity to show the power of them. So when the legislatures come into session, whether it's this year or in the biennial session, they see the value, and we can demonstrate the successes, and that they should fund them to the level that this federal funding has done so.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to also thank you very much for the breakdown and being able to prove and show where our funding is actually going to. And like you said, this is a great example on how we can prove what funding we do here in the district to our legislators, so that when it comes down to showing what needs to be put in basic education, it's a good window to that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moore.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next item of business is unfinished business, and tonight we do not have any unfinished business, which brings us to new business. We have quite a few policy reviews this evening, and I'm going to ask Mr. Fleckenstein to step up to the lectern and provide an overview. What, did I miss something?
Yeah, 1,400 for the November 23rd.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting what you're saying.
Yeah, we don't have a 1400.
The meeting schedule, proposed meeting schedule.
Oh, didn't know that. Okay. So we're going to start with item 1401, and Dr. Saltzman is going to provide an overview of this item.
Thank you. Usually it's you, Larry, but tonight it's me on this one. This is to revise the board meeting schedule to change November 23rd to November 30th due to the fact that Wednesday is no student contact time, and remove the January 25th meeting to accommodate the holidays.
Is there any discussion regarding the schedule changes? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and move that to second reading. I think Mr. Fleckenstein would agree that you did a fine job on that one. Okay, we'll move forward with item 14.02. Mr. Fleckenstein, please.
Yes, and good evening. To begin this evening, our first policy for review is policy 2401, English Language Arts Mastery-Based Credit, to comply with House Bill 1295, which is intended to support students in or that have been released from an institutional education facility, providing them access to world language proficiency tests, American Sign Language proficiency tests, and general education development or GED tests. And specifically, the definition that's provided here is around educational institutions. This particular provision under state law has been afforded to students at risk and students who are homeless. This is now extending to students that are in the care of a state institution, whether it's through the DSHS, a state or county juvenile detention center. So it's just extending support to more students within our state to help them to achieve a high school diploma. Policy revisions to 2401 English Language Arts Mastery-Based Credit have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's executive cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Are there any questions regarding this policy? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move 1402 to second reading. And I know we're going to go through, they're all very similar, so you take it away.
All right, and so much to President Mason's description, items 1402 through 1406 are duplicative, and in the event of the policy revisions, or as I had previously described, I'll just click through those here briefly for the public. So 4204, the revision as it pertains to mathematics mastery-based credit has been revised in your policy. In policy 4203, science mastery-based credit, we've made that same similar revision. In 2404, under social studies mastery-based credit. And then finally, I don't know if I can click on that one. Let's see if I can get to it. For 2410, it has been included in a slightly different way with the policy revision language.
And representatives or directors, any questions regarding any of these overviewed policies? Okay, we will go ahead and move all of these to second reading. And then we have item 1409. Sorry.
1406, 8.
Yeah, 8. I didn't see that. 1408, please.
Thank you, President Mason. The particular revision to policy 3520.
Real quick, sorry, point of order. So we skipped 1407.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that, I think it's the same thing, right? It's the same revision?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Thank you for catching that. Appreciate that, Director Nichols.
Yeah. My apologies for not including 1407.
Okay, I think we're going to go with 1408.
Yeah, so item 1408, policy 3520, refers to student fees, fines, and charges are to comply with House Bill 1176, which makes a very simple revision to your policy, which is to revise the term voluntary work to community service. If a student is unable to pay a fine or charge, the student may make a restitution through community service.
Can you just explain what the difference is?
It would provide the opportunity for the student to, for us to perhaps give back, the student to give back time on behalf of their fine to maybe an outside organization that's partnered with the school district, and then volunteering their time to make that happen, to do the restitution, as opposed to a voluntary work situation, which is purely just a site-based work opportunity to
Okay.
amass the time to pay off the fine.
That's what it appeared to be, but I just like the clarification. Thank you.
And the community service could be with any agency that the school or the student selects?
It does need to be supervised by the principal, who is the authority who then would waive the fine. So my description I gave is, it could be something that is in partnership with the school. Let's say they're doing some sort of a community-based event, food drive or something like that. So there'd be a partnership, but it'd still be site-based, but there's just a partnership opportunity there. So it wouldn't be just restricted to school site work. It could be with something that's giving back to the community.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions, so we'll move policy 3520 to second reading as well. And that takes us to item 14.09, policy 5160.
Thank you. And the proposed revisions to policy 5160, sexual harassment, are based on the 2020 Title IX final rules. Rather than inserting the full language of the 2020 Title IX rules into the current or existing policy, the current revision incorporates a reference to the updated procedures and definitions that we have taken from our students policy section in the 3000s, policy 3205 and procedure 3205P regarding the sexual harassment of students. So what this means is that the procedures that we would utilize to investigate an issue of sexual harassment that involves an adult employee and perhaps a student will be investigated following the procedures in 3205. So that's the implication of the revision. And the reason for that is brevity, of course, when it comes to adding so much to the policy itself. But I do want to point out that the Department of Education is planning a review based on executive action of this particular revision, and which may result in suspension, revision, or rescission of the 2020 final rule. So if that were to occur, it's a very small adjustment we would have to make to the policy in the future to change what the outcome of that review will be federally. So the proposed revisions to policy 5160 have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's executive cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Directors, any questions regarding this policy? Okay, hearing none, we will move policy 5160 also to second reading at our next meeting, which brings us to upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the September 28th regular meeting, the board will discuss the following: several policies for second reading, start of school update, ECAP enrollment, and the TBIP grant. Thank you.
Thank you. That might even be more than just a few policies for second reading on that meeting. Okay, item 16.0 is executive or closed session, and tonight we do not have an executive or closed session. So that brings us to item 17.0, which is adjournment. I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight and supporting the board and the work that we do. We greatly appreciate it. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.